This is a blank wall.
And that is an A-level art piece I made 5 years ago. And I want to put that art piece on this wall.
So the basic idea was that I wanted to redesign the piece with all the new knowledge I have gained over the past 5 years, and then literally paint it onto the wall, which sounds a lot easier than it ended up being, at least for a small part of it. But first, I need to get some more inspiration. I turned to Google instead of the usual Pinterest, and ended up collating a bunch of images I knew weren't AI. I did this because I wanted to directly reference a lot of the tree images, and since AI images are shit, I wanted to make my references actually real. I looked a lot at the Tree of Life and many trees on water, as well as cherry blossom trees and wisteria trees. Once they were all collated, I made a very rough sketch and then started to line over it. So immediately, as you can see, I was kind of working off of the rule of threes. It was something that I was trying to do in the original piece and just fucking failed at. So we just kind of figured it out from there. You can see that I'm going for a very like twisty turned kind of tree, where it's like kind of twisting into itself, and I thought that was really fun. Like a lot of the Tree of Life references I was looking at had that twist in it, so I thought it was super fun to try and do here. As you can see, I'm also putting like the rocks in the water. My initial idea as well was to have it so that I could like make a little fake balcony painted at the front, which is what the stray black lines are, so that it looked like I could just open my door and then walk out to see it onto a balcony. I ended up completely throwing that idea away because I was just like, I can't be bothered to do that. I can't be bothered to work it out. I can't be bothered to do any of that. But yeah, that's what those stray lines are. You can also see that I went for a little bit more of a messier kind of vibe on the tree leaves before I ended up just being like, no, we're not doing that. I really wanted to try the wisteria hanging down, but it just didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so I just ended up looking more at like the cherry blossom trees and how they function together. You can see that I was putting like stray rocks in the water as well, as then I went into building the rocks around the outside. The idea was in the original painting, there was this thing that this character had to climb, and they see, oh my god, this fabulous looking tree, this is amazing, what the hell? And it kind of worked that way, trying to make sure that I'm framing this tree with the rocks because I wanted the sunset behind it. Which is so confusing, but it works out, I promise. And as you can see, I was just trying to move it all around, just trying to build things into it to make it look right. I also ended up adding like little dots to it, which I thought could be really fun if I put like white paint around it and made it look, the tree look really magical and things like that. That idea does not stay, which is really unfortunate. I was thinking about doing that when I was painting it, but I literally finished painting it and then immediately started moving things in. So, you know, things happen. You'll see me putting colour now. I'm literally colour picking from the original painting. If people are wondering, the original painting was done with gouache paint, which is why it kind of looks a little bit messier, but it's fine. I really wanted to add like purple to the pink tree, which ends up just kind of like, you're going to see a finished painting and then you're going to see 6 more because I ended up changing all the colours on it until I found one that I liked. So you're going to see things like that, but I ended up adding like highlights to the back because I really wanted the sun right at the back where that little gap is in the stones, because I thought it would be so fun to then play with the light reflecting on this tree. And you're going to see me turning it black and white a lot, and that's because I'm testing out the tones of the colours I'm using. I have no idea why I'm doing that. I'm not going to be colour picking these colours for paint. Like, I have no idea why I'm like, oh, let's figure out the tones. This is not a finished painting. Stop doing that. I appreciate the effort, but oh my god. So yeah, I'm going to do that with a lot of colours. I was just kind of figuring out how I wanted it all to look. And you'll see that it changes because obviously it's so much easier to do like a painting on when you have like multiple layers and you can get rid of it all. And I'm not that great at painting anyway, so fuck knows why I decided to paint on my wall. But who cares? We're doing it. But yeah, we're just going into the background now and we can move on. So you're going to see this finished painting, which is awesome. And then you're going to see another one, which I was just trying to play around with the colors to try and figure out like what looks cool and what also looks very mystical as well. But yeah, I ended up on this purple kind of color which I ended up going forward on my project. And as you can see, I am whitewashing my wall right now. So what a whitewash is essentially you've got about 50% of paint and then 50% of water, and you're literally mixing it together, and then you're putting that on the wall, which is why you're seeing it running slightly. I did about 3 layers of this, just because the last time I did like 2, and the paint literally peeled up. And as I can attest that I've pulled stuff off of this wall now, it looks fine. It's working the same way as a gesso paint. The wall will be absorbing the moisture in the water and leaving the paint behind, which makes it an easier surface to work with.
Look at my hands. Oh, I got paint on my camera.
I was then planning to project my sketch onto the wall because I had a nifty little projector that I haven't been able to use, but I've had it for many years. So after reading all the instructions, I ended up booting up that sucker, and you can see the result of that.
Tis projecting. So the projector didn't work. New plan is I'm just gonna draw on the wall, but I'm gonna do that tomorrow because I can't bother to do it today. Today. I'm tired. It happens. So yeah, that's tomorrow's plan.
So, like I said, the projector didn't work, which is quite sad. Essentially, the reason it didn't work was because I couldn't go far enough back so that it wasn't, like, it was stuck at the size that you saw in the clip. So that was quite a shame. What I didn't show in between this was that I got a very long piece of wood and a measuring tape and literally measured my wall. So I cut that into thirds. There are grids on the wall, which is why I know where I should be drawing and why I have my phone out. So that's what's happening here. It's probably not that interesting because you really can't see much of it.
It's done. I don't know. You see a little bit of it. I did half of it. I did all the tree trunk, and I was like, I've been watching Teen Wolf again, and I've just finished season 3, like A and B. So I was looking at it, and I was like, this looks like the sketch Lydia did, but except for the fact that I'm not a banshee. But yeah, I'm very happy with it. It looks great. I actually really like the stones on the sides. I think the stones work really well. You can't see it. I pointed out, you can't see it. The printed copy is a lot darker than on my screen, but that's fine because I can just get it all lighter. Now I just have to figure out how much of each paint I need, but I can figure that out tomorrow. Because tomorrow, I'm going to get the paint. Ignore my Google thing, I'm about to watch Teen Wolf.
Woohoo! Painting! So, according to my timeline at the moment, where I am just rambling, this next section is literally 30 minutes long. I doubt it'll be like that because I don't think I can ramble for that much amount of time, but we're gonna see what happens. So, immediately what I started doing was that I wanted to do the sun / background first. Now, I'm frustrated at myself because for some reason I was like, I'm not gonna measure out a circle, I'm gonna wing it. And that is a very poor decision because you'll see eventually I keep going back and making it circular because it doesn't look right. And it's like, oh, you could have just made your life so much easier. But I didn't, so yeah. I ended up buying a lot of tester pots. So I'm pretty sure I brought 2 of each colour, which was fine. And then I mixed the colours together to make that in-between colour. Now, you don't see me mixing it together because sometimes it took me like upwards of 10 minutes to mix together and I stopped recording halfway through those. But yeah, it was kind of one of those things where I was making sure, oh, look at me, I'm actually mixing. Why do I speak? Why do I speak before I've seen what I'm doing? Because this is me mixing together paint. My God, Sage, what is wrong with you? Anyway, I'm mixing together colours because I figured that blend would be a lot more important, considering the fact that I'm working with this kind of paint, and I thought I had a lot more than I did, because when we get to the pink and the purple, my God, I fucking ran out of that shit so quickly. It was really upsetting, actually. But yeah, this is when I'm adding like the pink into the skies, and I think it works really well. The small little orange pink bits that I've mixed together really works, and it really brings a sense of cohesion to the painting that I just, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. I didn't expect it to work so well. And it does, and I think it genuinely, like, it's so subtle, and I'm looking at the finished painting on my wall right now. It's so subtle that you really can't notice it, but it is so helpful for the final piece. And I have left, like, a little gap in between the pink and the purple. Now, in my head, this is where I was going to mix the colours together. And also, I keep leaving the room because I keep adding water to my brush, because I've realised that I don't think I had enough paint for the purple and the pink. I had way too much for the orange and the yellow, but I didn't have enough for the purple and the pink, and I'm like, oh my god, this is running out. And I'm pretty sure it's running out in this corner, and I still have like a whole other corner to do. And so I'm kind of freaking out.
So most of the colours are actually done now. As you see, there is a strip of white that goes between the pink and the purple. That is going to be an in-between colour that I have to mix myself. I've decided to stop screen paint thingy me paint the wall because I know I'm going to crash out on it, and I refuse to have another crash out on my YouTube videos. It's too many this year. So yeah, now I'm going to do that.
And I did crash out. I crashed out hard. And you'll see that for a lot of other clips as well, is that sometimes they just stop recording and things have like happened. And that is because I know full well that I'm gonna struggle, and I don't want the pressure of having to try and do it first, like perfectly first time, which usually is fine. If I'm doing it like digitally, like I don't care, I can easily undo it. But when it comes to like painting on a wall, I'm really not that experienced when it comes to paint in general. So it was just one of those things where I was like, I'm just going to make sure I can use myself, because this is going to stay on my wall forever. I want it to look good. I've now moved on to the water, and we brought this massive paint bucket because they didn't have any small blue paint things, and I also didn't know how much paint that I needed, because I definitely would have needed more than 2 tester pots, which is what I was getting for everything else. But, things change, and I have no idea what's going on, but we're figuring it out. So now we just have a massive blue pot of paint. Shit happens. You're also seeing my hair tied up and really, like, I guess, sweaty. And that is because it is, like, in this clip, it's like 30 degrees in the UK. And I don't really want to complain about the heat because people are always like, oh, it's always hot in my country. Our heat is never heat, it's humidity. And it's always, like, 100% humidity. And it's always, like, it's the kind of hot that, like, you'll sweat and the air is so wet that the sweat will stay there. And it is horrible to experience. Especially going from, like, at uni, I got, like, snow between between the months of, like, November to February, and then immediately moving down south, maybe 3 months later, to 30-degree heat was crazy. So I'm struggling a bit, but it's fine. We went through it. This is when I start. This is when I start doing the blue for the shading of the rocks. And you can see that I'm stopping because I'm like, this hasn't worked out. No, don't do that line. That line is so bad. You can see me regretting it instantly. Like, I should have sketched out where I wanted the lines to go. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to project the sketch, because I had worked really hard to make sure that the lines that went around the tree made sense. This is so sad watching this back. Oh my god. Here you go. We've cut away because I stopped recording because I got sad. And as you can see, I ended up just blending all the colours together, which I think works a lot nicer, and it looks a lot nicer too. It looks a lot more natural. Essentially what I was doing was I was doing a real large blob of paint on top of the dark blue lines, adding a mixed paint that I made, and then adding the light colour of the big tub of paint, and then I was literally getting a dry brush and blending all together to get those, like, streak marks. And it's really streaky, but I think it works really well, because, like, even though sometimes we're getting, like, brush marks on it, it just works with the vibes of of the water, and I think it works really well, and I'm really happy that I ended up doing it. I ended up doing it for the rest of the painting. We're gonna ignore the bottom part because the bottom part doesn't look right, but that's fine, you know, like, whatever, that's totally chill.
It is done. It looks a bit like a water ball, and that side's a little bit of a mess, but I don't care. It's done. I can add in rocks where I don't like it. And there's a little bit of a mistake there, so I'm gonna go back over with the yellow and make sure that it's all even.
And now we're moving on to the rocks. Now, much like the blue, I did end up getting a grey, oh my god, what's my word? A grey paint, oh my god, a grey paint bucket. A grey paint bucket. And I was mixing my colours together, and I was like, ooh, wouldn't it be so cool if I had like this orange, like kind of little bit of an overlay on top of it, and then I mixed it with the blue to make the shadows. Turns out, blue and orange make green. So now the stone is slightly green, the shadows are very green, and the even darker shadows are blue. And I was just like, oh my god, this is what I get for being a digital artist. In my head, I was like, oh yeah, adding an orange wash would be so fun. You can't do that with traditional paint, you fucking idiot. Oh. But it's fine, I think it works well anyway. In my head, I had justified it so that it's the blue reflecting off the blue's reflecting off the water, which I think works really well. And I did kind of screw myself over in the sense that, like, I didn't mix enough paint. And I started with the corner, which would have been covered. And so, oh, we're not even going to talk about the way I started trying to shade the fucking... Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, I started shading the corner that is going to be hidden. And I was like, you've just used all that paint that you didn't need to use. I'm going to stop criticizing myself, actually. If I start criticizing myself, I'm going to hate the painting. And then, oh my god, it's going to be on my wall until I move out. And that's going to be in, like, at least, like, I don't know, let's put a number on it, 7 years. Yeah. So I'm just doing the stone. I'm literally just painting the stone, that's it. And this is the point where I got, like, a little bit worried because I've run out of paint and I've run out of shading and I'm running out quickly. And I've realized that I need to do the stone in the middle. And now that I think about it, I don't think I did any other stones in this entire water section. Did I? Let me check. Nope! No other stones. So, yeah. I feel like my anger has stopped me from being able to ramble correctly. But I promise, when we get to the tree part, I'm gonna have a good time again. It's just that I ran out of paint and there was nothing I could do about it. And crash outs that aren't my fault. They just happen so regularly. And what else am I supposed to do? And my voice really hurts because I've been doing like 6 videos in a row. I'm joking, I've done 3, but... Anyway, we've moved on to the tree, finally. And mixing this tree color actually took me an hour. For some reason... We had a brown colour, and we got it down from our loft. And it was one of those things where no matter how much I mixed it with the colours, it wasn't getting darker. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? So it took me like an hour and a lot of Googling. And in the end, I just ended up winging how I darkened it. But I ended up winging it by adding a load of blue, then adding a load of orange, and then a bunch of green. And then for some reason it just worked out. But I had to do this, like, I ended up using my entire orange, my second orange tester pot, just trying to shade this fucking, just trying to make the tree darker. And I was like, oh my god. But yeah, I've successfully painted the tree, which is awesome. And then when I go in for shading, it gets a little bit more complicated because, you know, it just, as always, it kind of falls apart on me. I ended up with a colour that was way too light, so you couldn't really see the contrast on it. And then I did find a colour that I liked, and I started painting on it. And then I painted without my reference, which made the tree just look fat. Like, it doesn't shift the way I want it to. And you can see me trying to figure it out and trying to, like, add shading in to make it look nice and everything, but it just hasn't worked out the way that I wanted it to, and that's fine. you know, it's a painting and I'm not too experienced with painting. At least I've impressed my family who have no idea how to do any of this stuff, and that's fine. But I think it works out fine. Here, at this point, I am doing that little yellow underlay on all the leaves that I was talking about in the speed paint. I ended up going in and sketching where I wanted those underlays to be, and then I went and painted it. I had a lot of yellow left over, but I also knew that the yellow was quite light. So in order to actually like make sure that the yellow was, you know, yellow, I had to do like 3 layers on it. So that's what I ended up doing here. It was one of those things where I just made sure that I did the yellow first, let it dry, and then added another layer of yellow onto it before I even started putting the paint on it. The purple paint on it even. But yeah, that's me going around. I've got the sketch going on underneath it, which you can't see, but it is there. Which is why the lines are not perfect, but then they're a lot more thought out than usual. I had learned from my mistake on the bark, but don't worry, I'll make another mistake when I go back to the bark, because why not? The yellow kind of blends in a little bit with the yellow of the background, but I don't really care about it. It still looks right. Like, it could just be because I can see it, but the way that I did this paintbrush compared to the sun in the background just makes it stand out, so that's fine. This is just me going through another layer of paint, like I said. And then now we are moving on to the light purple. So the light purple was, I think, a lilac color. No matter how many times I show my family, they think it's pink, and I'm like, no, guys, it's purple. It's just lilac. I really do wish I had added pink shading in. I think it would have looked a lot nicer, but, you know, you win some, you lose some. It was also here that I realized that because the tree is lit from below, that the shading has to go upwards. And so that's why all of this is the lightest color that we see, which I don't know. It looks fine, you know, like, the reasoning is sound and everything else is sound. It's just one of those things where I was like, it's not been executed how I imagined it, but that's just because I don't have the skills to do what I imagined, which is, you know, kind of regular, but it works. And I also was running out of paint, as is a common thing for this video. But yeah, I had a lot of time doing the paint. It was nice seeing it all come together finally, and having it all just work together, and it did work, and it was nice too. I don't know why I didn't do the underneath part of the tree a darker color, but you know, there's so many things going on in my head, it's a wonder I don't think about most things. And then I ended up going into the darker bits. Now, I originally just wanted to start like putting the paint in, and then I realized I could actually just like blend it. So I ended up doing the same thing that I did with the water at the bottom, and I just like add a little bit of paint of both colors and get a dry brush and, you know, kind of just smooth it between them so that you see like a nicer blend. And I end up doing this just because it looks so harsh like that. You know, this is me doing it now. I've learned my ways, and I kind of hate it, and I've realized that I've done it wrong. So I do the bigger parts because I'm like, I'm not going to crash out while I'm recording this. I refuse again. And then I learn that it's just mainly because of how much like lighter purple I put on it. But you know, it's one of those things. It happens. And so I do it for the main shadow part, which differentiates between the big tree bush on the top and the big tree bush on the bottom. I can't remember what they're called. I say it's early, it's like 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm just, so much thinking's going on. And then once I had done that shading, I actually went back in with the lighter purple, because since it's being shaded, it's being like lit from below, it makes sense for me to have that happen. I'm pausing because I'm hoping people will agree with me. But yeah, so then I ended up painting a lot more of the darker colours, and then I go back in with those shading, the same as the bottom section, with an even darker colour. So I think this is probably where, like, I can't even say this is where people confuse the pink, because I used my leftover purple. And by leftover, I mean, like, the scraps of purple I had left. But yeah, the tree was finally coming together. And I really, as much as I've been, like, talking shit about my artistic ability throughout this video, and, like, I think it works really well, and I've executed it really well as well. Like, I faced a lot of challenges in this, like the stencil not working, running out of paint, but it still looks good and I'm still happy with it. Like, there's errors everywhere and it's not perfect, but for the first time in like any time I've painted anything, I'm okay with it not being perfect, which is like a major milestone for me, you know? Like, I'm not necessarily obsessed with it being perfect, but obsessed with it looking professional. But for the first time, I'm okay with this not looking professional, and I think it's because it was done for myself. For me, I'm gonna see it all the time, so I'm happy with it, and that's the main thing. And for the last little bits, I was going through with the yellow to do the shadows. And here I was trying to correct my earlier mistakes of, you know, not having it curve properly. And I didn't fix it. In fact, I think I made it worse. But, you know, we move. It's not that serious. I fear if I criticize this too much, I'll end up hating it. So, that's that. And because I was in such a rush to just, like, move all my furniture in afterwards, you only get this one panorama photo I've taken of it, just in a slow motion going over the whole painting. But I think it looks good. You know, there's errors places, it looks amateur, it is amateur, and I enjoy it, and I like it, and I think that it's really come together, and it happened over a couple weeks, and I think it looks great. And that has been me painting a mural on my wall. Honestly, if you are wanting to paint a mural on your wall, just do it. Like, this was the most fun I've had, like, redesigning or redecorating my room, just because I wanted to paint something on my wall. And being able to go back and look at my old A-level art pieces and be like, I can make that better, was also, like, a massive bonus too. So I seriously recommend people do this. I don't know if you've heard, but my voice is slowly giving up on me. So that'll be all for today. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, consider subscribing if you've enjoyed my ramblings. I have loads of videos that you can watch after this, and I shall see you all in my next video.